You're watching News 24 Live. I'm joined in studio this morning by Sport 24 editor Garen Lamley and chief writer Rob Howing to give you a sports update, but namely to preview the Springbok All Black clash this weekend. Gentlemen, good morning. Thanks very much for coming in. Welcome back, Rob.
Thanks very much, Nick.
Right, let's start, of course, with the big game this weekend, Rob. The All Blacks have released their side. A couple of debuts, very much a Hurricanes Highlanders flavour to this team for obvious reasons due to the Super Rugby form.
Yes, it's a reasonably experimental New Zealand team. If you were to sort of sum up both sides, I think you would say that the Springbok side is less experimental. It's more sort of injury enforced. Heineke has made 3 changes to the starting lineup. All of them are because of injury. So otherwise, you suspect he would have gone with a fair amount of continuity, which wouldn't have been too surprising considering the fact that we did play pretty well for the lion's share of the Wallabies game the previous week. So there was no special reason to push panic buttons. I think a lot of acknowledgement that maybe a few errors were made in terms of strategic decisions in the second half and the use of the bench. The bench has been shaken up quite a bit. That's something that is a big aspect of the Springbok match day brew this weekend. 2 new props, for instance, Nyakane and Koch come into the mix, but the All Blacks, they are sort of, I wouldn't say the word arrogant is correct, but they're very comfortable. Given the depth of rugby in New Zealand, as you say, they're very happy to experiment ahead of a World Cup. No special pressure on them. Look, it's not going to be the end of the world for them if they were to lose to the Springboks. But looking at that New Zealand side, I still think it's pretty formidable. Sopawanga getting a debut at fly half, that's going to be a cause for quite a lot of interest. But there's still so much X factor just on that bench of theirs. Looking at some of the guys who could come on and inject the mix in the second half. I mean, just their backline. If you bring on Perenara, Fekitoa, and there's 1 or 2 others in there who could just sort of change things in a flash if necessary. I think we'll get a good game. I think we'll get a nice sort of relaxed game of rugby. Both teams acknowledging that the World Cup is numero uno in terms of priority this year. So it's not going to be the end of the world if this one goes closely either way. I'd say if one of the teams gets drilled, then perhaps a little bit of a wobble in either instance, just mentally. But I think we could be in for a pleasant game of rugby, and the conditions look quite decent. I see that there's a bit of rain predicted in advance for the Highveld, but it should be bright and sunny come kickoff time. So I expect there to be a fair few tries, quite a sort of running spirit in the game, and a very tough match to call, really.
Garen, what have you made of the changes? And I mean, talking of the Springboks, obviously big news this week. Heinrich Brousseau is back in the mix. Late change I see this morning. Now Cornel Hendricks has stepped in for JB Peterson, which brings Lionel Mapu onto the bench. And Skalkberger at skipper captaincy.
Yeah, interesting changes for both teams, Nick. Just starting with Skalkberger, I think it will be a one-off match as skipper. I think Victor Matfield will be back for next weekend. Heineke may even said at a push he could have played this weekend, but got an eye on the bigger picture, the World Cup later in the year. A little bit of extra rest for Matfield, it's not the worst thing. So Berger back at number 8. Heinrich Brousseau, first match in 4 years. Interesting, for me, interesting reading into that. I thought Marcel Coetzee has been fantastic this season. He seems to step up his game from Sharks and Super Rugby level to national level. Unfortunately, one of the injury changes Rob chatted about, he's going to miss out. If he had been fit, I'm pretty sure he would have played. I'm pretty sure Brousseau wouldn't have played. Difficult to see what Brousseau has done differently in the this last week or 2 than he has in the last 4 years. He's been back and forth to Japan, injured for a fair bit for the Cheetahs.
I know he's highly rated by the Kiwis.
I mean they tend to talk up all the South Africans, how big they are and how brutal they are at the breakdown and the rolling maul and stuff. So they give us more credit, I think, than we give ourselves. So yeah, interesting. I mean, Brousseau is going to have to play phenomenally well to be even better than Coetzee was. I mean, if he plays well, the South Africa won't play any better than they did against the Wallabies, because I thought Coetzee was one of the better players on the day. So interesting how that pans out. We've got 2 fetchers. We lose a lot in the line out in terms of options. Brousseau obviously very, very small. It's in some roundabout way, it's a bit of a giving credit to Richie McCaw that we've got now 2 fetchers against him. I see New Zealand have gone for Liam Messam instead of Jerome Kiner, so they've also sort of countered our selections with more of a fetcher than Kano. So interesting there as well. Obviously, when you pick 2 fetchers, you sort of want to turn the ball over, which tells me you don't have the ball. So it looks like we've sort of going to give New Zealand the ball, as much as we wouldn't want to do that, but expecting them to have the majority of the possession in the match and then try and turn it over, which is a lot, unfortunately, like what happened in the second half against the Wallabies, where we were defending almost for the entire 40 minutes and then obviously ran out of gas at the end and conceded the late try to lose the match. So, again, the New Zealand backline changes when you think there is no Dan Carter, no Sonny Bill Williams, no Julian Sevier, Naholo out with an injury for the entire year, plus a couple of other players. It is very much a B/C New Zealand team, but they've got so much depth, but their depth comes from being able to be not worried about making wholesale changes week after week. So that's how you build depth. I mean, South Africa don't have the depth. They've got more players than New Zealand have. So you would think we should have the depth. And we get to pick everyone from overseas, which New Zealand don't. So we've got more depth than they do, but we just don't play them, so we don't really know how they'll perform at the highest level. So, credit to New Zealand for throwing Sopiaga into the mix. Obviously, he's 4th or 5th best, I think, in New Zealand behind Carter and Cruden if he was fit, and Barrett and Colin Slade as well. So I think the reason he's playing is because Aaron Smith is getting a game and he's his halfback partner at the Highlanders. So interesting to see how they go. He's kicked very well this season, probably more accurate for kicking at poles than Beauden Barrett is. But Beauden Barrett's one of those X-factor players that I think will come on certainly at halftime, perhaps 10 minutes into the second half, and when the game opens up, Boks get a little bit tired. So I think if New Zealand are in the mix or ahead at halftime, they're going to be very difficult to pin back in the second half. But if you're looking for a prediction, a very, very tough match to call, as Rob said. It could go either way. It could come down to a Lambie penalty like last time in the last dying seconds. If he kicks it, the Boks win. If he misses, the All Blacks win. But I'm leaning towards New Zealand by 2 or 3 points, no more than that, though.
Okay.